Wait, what's going on? It's a Tuesday, and we're doing what even is a Sunday leftover?
I can't remember exactly.
I can't either. It's been like 10 years.
Like
this is when you and I set up microphones to talk to each other because nobody else pays attention, right?
The show that never was waiting for is back.
Here's the live stream no one missed. No one got an email that said, "Hey, where's the?" No one missed it, but we're gonna do it anyway. Maybe Trey's watching today. No, Trey's not watching.
It's for fun.
Trey maybe. But what time is it? Oh, Trey's got to pick up an HEB order and head to the coast. HIV. Trey's got to pick up some HIV. No, that's not even funny. All right, here we are. Sunday leftovers. It's been so long.
Leftovers.
Right.
This is the tradition.
Right. You texted me yesterday and said, "Hey, are we doing Sunday leftovers?"
Yeah.
And I'm like Googling, what is Sunday leftovers?
Sunday leftovers.
Nah, this is a lot of fun, really. And Sunday was a huge amount of fun for me. I had been gone for 2 Sundays, and anytime that I'm gone 2 weekends in a row, I'm just anxious to get back. The best part about traveling to me is getting on that last plane ride home to Austin because I love this town, I love this church. Finally feeling healthy, feeling some energy, and we're in a new season, a new series that I'm actually really, really excited about. So I do have some thoughts left over.
And today is a how to say, crisp day.
It's crisp and cold. Yeah, actually, it's a polar vortex. We may not survive the 55-degree mornings. It may end life as we know it.
Yeah.
I walked out yesterday, and I'm like, who Illinois'd my Texas? Somebody Ohio'd my Texas. Anyway, so thoughts kicking around in the very vast and empty spaces of my brain on a Tuesday.
Give me a little bit more than another thoughts. Please introduce me a little bit
to the concept. Okay, so since since
I've been busy
you pastor your own church.
Yeah,
you
sorry.
You should be listening to my church. Anyway,
yeah, I should.
Since our retreat with Stan, a couple of ideas came very strongly through that time. Trey and I and Stan and the rabbi were down on retreat recently, and so the thinking is, after we talked coming out of the summer, where we dove deep into the roots of our faith, which are Jewish, and kind of set that up as a way of saying we have to do better to listen to the original compilers and writers of these stories. Then we moved into a little reflection on, but why does Jesus still matter? Which my robust conclusion is that he absolutely still does. Holds center for me still, not moving off that. And so now we're talking about what is it going to take for a community like ours to thrive? And so here's the context, and here's why this matters. There are many, many, many churches led by people, all good people, who, if they can just see a couple of churches transition through this journey welcoming the LGBTQ community, and if they can see those churches come through and survive and begin to thrive on the other end, maybe that's some impetus and some compelling. Maybe that'll draw some people into believing that we can survive this, right? So the church is molting now is my thesis. Molting meaning we have to move forward. We have to design a set of wings where we used to just have like lots of little feet as a way of. So we're in a season of change. It's predictable. This happens to the church every so often. And so what is it going to take for us to stand on our feet now, radically welcoming all people, holding the text the way we do, which is generously and open, and understanding it to be an invitation into a greater story, not just our story. So when we've moved away from biblical literalism and we've moved away from cultural exclusivity, what is it going to take now to thrive on the backside of that? What will it take for us? And so
it's like, okay, let me try to understand this
concept.
It's like, okay, if we thrive as a church,
right,
that could encourage other people that maybe they're afraid of taking another step.
Correct.
Because they say, okay, maybe if we do this, we will lose so many
things. It will be
things.
the end of the church as we know it.
Yes.
So they're both right and wrong.
It's right and wrong.
They're both right and wrong.
They will lose that church.
It will be the end of that church.
Yeah.
But what can grow in its place, what I'm suggesting, and what I suggested on Sunday, what can grow in its place is the horizon, and it must be what we do. We have to look forward, and we have to listen to the young. So the story last Sunday was Jeremiah 31:31, which is, behold, I'm doing a new thing, and everybody knows this text, and all the Christians I knew growing up interpreted that as, this is Jesus moving. This, Jesus is the completion of Jeremiah's prophecy, and it's bigger than that, guys. It's bigger than just Jesus. There is a sense in which to walk with God is to constantly be presented with new. with newness. Just something in the back of my head. I feel like a bird just shat on me.
Yeah.
And then you smiled, and I thought, oh. Okay, so here's where we are. Here's where we are.
We're having stuff coming out of the tree,
Right.
but you're fine. You're fine.
Here's where we are. The church must molt if it's going to thrive, if it's going to survive. It's got to undergo a transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our generation, I think, my generation, or the people that I see, or the people that or let me just say it this way. For me, what matters most is that the next iteration of the church be radically committed to including all people, period. I don't care how she worships. I don't care where she worships. I don't care how she defines orthodoxy necessarily, or belief, or doctrine, or praxis. Those things, to me, are outworkings of what's most important, which is, it is not the gospel if it doesn't include all people. I think that's what I see. That's the church that ANC is.
If the gospel doesn't include all people,
then it's
there's
not the gospel. So that needs to go away, right? Okay. So that's the molting process that I'm describing, right? So, so Jeremiah, the question for Jeremiah is, how far was he seeing ahead, right? Like, was he seeing? He writes during a time when Judah and Israel were carted off into captivity, and they've lost their hope. And he writes about this new thing coming. Mm-hmm. So is he writing about when Nehemiah comes back and rebuilds the city walls? Is he writing about the founding of the nation of Israel in 1948 or in the 40s? What is he writing about? And I think what Jeremiah is seeing is what all mystics see, which is the way in which all of this comes together. Because in that passage in Jeremiah, it says, I'm going to do a new thing, and no one's going to need to teach anyone about it, because it'll be written on people's hearts. No more stone tablets. No more elite class that needs to explain the words of God to people. It will be written on people's hearts, which to me is the ultimate progressive move into a world in which God is active in all places already. And that changes our role. Our role now is not to take God to darkness. Our role is to bear witness to a God that has been self-revealing to all things, right? And so this sentence was my favorite. Nobody liked it. Nobody acknowledged it. This was... You know, when you preach to a bunch of white progressive folk in South Austin, or a bunch of, whatever we are, our church, I shouldn't say white. When you preach to our church, people mostly do this. If they're with you, they go like this, they go. And they don't breathe.
Yeah.
And they don't say anything.
Are you missing the Pentecostal charismatic feeling when the people that agree with you says, Amen?
All the beautiful things about the Pentecostal church, what I miss the most in worship is if they're alive, they let you know they're alive. Anyway, this was the sentence that sort of encapsulated a lot of what I was trying to communicate. Around the question of what was Jeremiah seeing? What did he see? I wrote. Or could it be that Jeremiah was seeing the super distant future, when all people can finally acknowledge that there is a prepaid return to sender stamp on all things made by love? If you ever get a package and it's got a box inside and it's already got the postage paid, so, if you don't like it, you send it back at no expense. That was the concept, right? A prepaid return to sender stamp on all things made by love, meaning all things belong to God and all things will find their way home. That's a new thing. Was Jeremiah glimpsing, however haltingly, what all mystics and all prophets eventually see, namely that there is a sequence in the code built into the primal algorithms of all things that will take them all the way home when the time comes? I think I'm implying the answer there. The answer there is yes. Okay.
That's
so
nice.
Part of what we're going to need to do to thrive is understand that we are but one embodiment of the life of God in the world. We are not the whole picture, and if we don't understand that, then then everything centers on us. And so what I don't mean by thriving is I don't mean growing numerically to be this huge mega new thing in Austin. That really. It doesn't interest me. And part of me says it doesn't interest me as a self-defense mechanism because I'm never going to be the guy to grow a big church. So part of me is like, I don't want to do that anyway. I didn't want to play first string anyway because,
Yeah, it's not in our DNA.
But so part of me says, I'm not interested in mega. I've done that. I've been part of those teams. I'm not interested in that. But part of me really means this. I don't think what we're doing will ever be enormous because I don't think progressive movements grow that way. I think the mystery of progressive movements that slowly grow to undermine and change a culture is that they're difficult to get your hands on. They don't necessarily have a leader or a central publishing house or locations that you could say this is the kind of change that I see happening, the kind of molting that I think the church needs to do right now is going to be a 1,000 little points where things are beginning to happen already, where people are beginning to grow
it's like the model
uneasy with the way things were, right? Because of who it excluded and who it included. We're going to talk a little bit more about this coming Sunday, but I don't think what we're doing is ever going to be this enormous, historic, standout thing. But I think it will be known. It must be known. It has to be known for its health. So thriving to me is health.
Right.
Literally doing good and being well is about the best way I can say it. Yeah. So I think that's where I want to lead us into as a church, both online and in person, both in town and out of town. I want us to wake up every day, look deep inside and say, what can I realign today in order to come more fully alive? If you ask me, what is God's plan for your life? Remember that statement in the 80s? And God has a plan for your life. Yeah, right. That's the whole. If you were to ask me, what is God's plan for me? Here's what I can say and mean it. To day by day become more fully myself. What does the world need? The world needs Caesar to day by day become more fully himself. What does Ada need? What does Mati and Simon and Julian need? What does Amor Original need? What does ANC need? What do my children need? They need me to more fully inhabit who I already am. Yeah. So it's an internal journey. That's what I mean by thriving in health.
When you said these last words and you said about the concept of thriving, you associated that with health. That's for me it's so amazing. But at the same time, there's a tiny piece in my mind that all the time I'm trying to keep quiet. That it is because of our background. That all the time push ourselves, oppress ourselves, denied ourselves because we took that part of the Bible in a very literalistic form. That you should deny yourself in order to serve the Lord. And when you said you need to be yourself, it's
I know.
For me, this moment of my life makes a lot of sense, but I can understand if someone else could think about, oh, this is crazy. The Bible says this, and this guy is saying the opposite.
Well, I am sort of saying the opposite, but I'm sort of saying the same thing in the end. So I get it. I get the tension.
Yeah.
And I'm always appreciative when you bring it up because not many people bring it up around here anymore because we're sort of on the same page. But here's what I mean when I say pursuit of self is the pursuit of God. I would just back up and say, okay, so if you come from a paradigm that says, look, no, I need to be less and God needs to be more. I would say, okay, so where do you experience God becoming more? Where? Show me. Yeah. With your hands. Show me where.
My life.
Okay, so just go there, which is, if you call that a journey into God, that's fine. I'm going to call it a journey into knowledge of yourself, which is where you encounter the knowledge of God.
Right.
It's not out here, right? Our life, it doesn't exist in, two parallel worlds, which is one is inside, one is outside. We just exist. It's just us. It's just us in the world. And for to help understand things, we often put them in buckets and categories. But it's unhelpful now for us in a postmodern world to look at the pursuit of God as this thing we do on the outside. Because if you don't feel the presence of God and if you don't experience transformation inside, then I don't care really what you did out here. It doesn't matter, right? I hate to sort of leak where we're going next Sunday, but I will anyway because I do it every time, and I say I hate it every time. But there's a parable Jesus talks about where two men stood to pray in the temple, and one of them lists all of the things that he did well. On the external, he was doing all the things. He was doing more than was expected. He was fasting twice a week, not just when required.
He was doing way more than the law.
He was giving a tenth. He's giving a tithe. He was doing all these things. He represented literally the embodiment of all spiritual pursuit on the outside. And yet, he held contempt for his brother on the inside. So when I say it's not an outside pursuit, I'm just harmonizing with all the great mystics of all the great traditions of all time, which is the whole world is inside. Now, you don't have to agree with that.
I agree.
No, I mean rhetorically speaking, one doesn't have to agree with that. Yeah. At the same time, for many years, we would have heard that as nonsense, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Basically, our goal every day was to get up and try to be less of who we are, so we could experience God more. And I smoked that joint all the way to the backside and realized, actually, what God is asking me to do is take more full ownership of who I am.
That's right.
Right. So thriving is going to look like integration between your inside and outside world.
Liberation also.
Liberation from this dualistic paradigm that says
Right.
this is godly, this is not godly. But it's going to look like integration of all the ways in
I
which...
like that word.
Yeah.
Integration.
It's going to look like
I
an
like
integration.
that.
Yeah.
It's integration. Yeah.
So it's going to be a season of some deep reflection. To this season, I'm bringing the most energy and enthusiasm I've ever brought to ministry. I don't know why that is. Had some delightful conversations with people that I dearly love and value. Sunday after church, that are like, Kitty and Clyde, some of my favorite people. They're like, we are all in. I want to be the person who I can't lead you to the next thing because my body's broken and my eyes don't see that far. But I want to give everything I have left in life to empower you to go to that next horizon. Because here's what I understand about the church. It's always en route to the next horizon. There is nothing to be gained by freezing forward movement and saying, this thing behind us, this is where we need to stay. We ought to know this on the inside now. And so I want to be the old person who can envision that next thing, however vaguely. I want to pour my life into, and I think this is where the energy is coming from. I want to pour my life into those who might have a chance of chasing it down.
Right.
It won't be me. It won't be Clyde. And it won't be Brian or Barbara, or it won't be Mirbe and these great people I listen to. We're too old now, but that's okay. We saw something clearly. We brought it into fullness, however we were able. And I want to live in a posture that empowers those to keep going. I want to literally be left behind. I want to be left behind as because I understand this to be true. And
So
Jeremiah,
This is the new Left Behind.
new Left Behind series. Oh, boo! I'm so glad we can edit that out. Oh wait, this is live.
Different.
Yeah.
Left Behind.
Left behind or behind? No, I want to be thought of as a person who was just a few steps ahead, not in a superior way, but in an understanding, like Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 31, that God is always doing a new thing. Remember that DC Talk song? You know, he's doing it. God is doing a new thing. You remember that?
I'm sorry.
You don't
I'm
remember?
sorry. No, I don't.
I bet Alan remembers DC Talk. Alan Shepard's out there. I love Alan. He's going to see him in a couple weeks. I don't know if we have any questions, but it's just fun. There's a lot of residual energy from me from Sunday. Also, we're only doing one service now.
Well, that's great because
Which
you're going
means-
to put all of that energy in your next sermon.
No, it means I'm going to try to preach at another church after ours or something because I got to do twice on Sunday. No, it's good. I feel like it's a good time of.
It's a good season.
It's a good season.
It's a good
season.
Nice
it's a good time
things
to be
are
doing what we're
happening
doing.
around. Yeah.
A lot of people spend their whole time just, I wish it wasn't this and I wish it wasn't that. And that kind of regret, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. I'm tired. I'm too old for that. I want to be doing exactly this exactly right now with you and all these people.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. It is fun
It
already.
is fun. All right.
Yeah.
Sunday leftovers, y'all.
See you, man.
Chew, Juan.
You're gonna